Annual reports are always a major concern for most businesses. So, what goes into an annual report? Well, as we stated earlier, an annual report is usually published every year, and it gives people an idea of what a corporation's fiscal condition is. So, in this report, they're usually distributed to employees, stockholders, or potential stockholders. And it contains detailed information about things like income statements and then balance sheets. It also has descriptions of corporate operations or maybe just some general reports from the management. Corporations will use annual reports as an opportunity to enhance their corporate identity. How do people see them? To show people what their main concerns are or even what their drive for the future may be. Annual reports are also a requirement by a lot of governments. In the United States, the Securities Exchange Commission requires corporations to publish an annual report at least once a year. During this time, they can use this as a visual communication tool to convey a lot more than just the requirements that are set forth by the government. They can convey their corporation's corporate image. So, a lot of annual reports describe the health or the state of the company and also give predictions for the future and what their future intentions may be. Most annual reports will be divided into two sections. The first section will contain things like a letter from the CEO. There'll also be a lot of photography, a lot of illustrations, a lot of things that will catch your attention. And these are great attractive marketing elements. The second part of the annual report is usually found in the back, and it's called the 10K wrap. This is where you get a lot of information, and this information is usually in the form of numbers. How much income did they make? How much debt or loss did the corporation have? And what their future projections may be. Now, just because there's a lot of information and a lot of numbers and a lot of text doesn't mean your annual report has to look dull and drab. Annual reports tend to be some of the most creative things that graphic designers can create because they're given freedom to convey a lot of information to people, and they want people to read these and they want people to understand them. So you as a graphic designer can keep an eye out for what are some great ways of communicating ideas to people, especially if they're boring ideas. How do you make them look good? Let's take a look at several annual reports. Check out this one for a children's museum. In this case, it looks fun. It looks like something that a child would want to read, even though it has a lot of corporate information to it. They're using great childlike fonts, they're using a lot of visuals and a lot of color, and they're making it very tactile. The type of paper that they choose and how it's bound together makes it look like more than just something that's very serious. In this case, the Children's Health Fund, their 2011 annual report, has a lot of color to it. They also have a lot of visuals showcasing not only the people who work there, but also the people who they're helping. Pay attention to colors, pay attention to the layout. Everything is nice and visual and graphically represented. It's inviting to read, and it gives you all the necessary information. Sometimes annual reports can boil down the information into just a few graphics. And these graphics are great to read because now you don't have to deal with a lot of text. They've summed it up and put it together in just a few short images. These types of graphics are what are known as infographics. This is when you take a graphic representation of data. And usually data is very, very difficult to read over. You can't pick up what you're trying to say clearly, quickly. So if you can take that information and make it visual, the human brain will pick up on these visual patterns and trends and be able to understand things a lot quicker. Let's look at some other infographics. First of all, infographics can show a lot of information on one page, and these are becoming very popular, especially on a website. Usually they'll stick to a couple of color patterns or a couple of color schemes, and they'll give an entire page broken down. Different sections will cover different types of information. The bigger the information, of course, that's going to draw your eye to it. Smaller information can be supporting details. But overall, they're trying to sum up what the information is and put it into one single graphic. Sometimes you can have a lot of detailed information, and it almost tells a story as you look through here. But an entire annual report can be summed up in one visual graphic. Wouldn't you rather have something like this show up on your doorstep than an entire book to read? The main thing about visual infographics is to have fun with them and make sure that other people understand. When you create a visual infographic, take the data seriously. You never want to change the numbers or mislead people about what the numbers look like. So always ask other people's opinions and show your information before it gets published. As far as the design process for an annual report, it follows everything else. You come up with a design concept first. The nature of the concept should be appropriate for whoever you're creating it for. It should follow their mission statement, and it should make a statement nice and bold. It should also have highlight the achievements or any strong points that corporation may have achieved in the last year. A design concept for an annual report may hinge on a theme. It can have a unifying quality, it can have a subject, it may even have repeating shapes or patterns or images. The process for coming up with these different things, there's some things to think about. Some platforms you can start off with are, what's the entity's mission? What's your corporation's idea for the future? Do you have any charitable undertakings? Is the CEO have a topic in their research letter? Are there any platforms or such as family giving or where they're going to grow? Can you come up with a theme from that? Are there any visual platforms such as putting two visuals side by side that creates a visual metaphor? All of these are great starting points that you can build upon and create a theme for your annual report. Once you've got a theme, coming up with the visuals tends to be very easy. Choosing imagery that demonstrates that entity's values and what's their attributes is the best thing to stick with. You do, however, want to ensure that your annual report's look and feel is consistent with the corporation's established visual identity. Are you using the appropriate colors? Are you using the appropriate fonts and text? Is it readable? Also, make sure it's functional. You want to report information by promoting the entity, and you want it to be easily accessible by those who are reading it. The information should be easy to find in a logical presentation. This is especially true for infographics. If people don't understand what they're reading, they're probably not going to read it, and it's going to make your corporation look less interesting. Use diagrams, use charts, use graphics, and use visual styles. Photography and illustrations are always great eye-catching elements that you can use, and your theme should highlight any achievements or goals that they've accomplished in the last year.